Well, hey there. Let's go ahead and get started with this review of MiSide. Now, this was a game that I went into not knowing anything about whatsoever. I didn't watch any gameplay previews, and I just saw a few different YouTubers and streamers that were talking about it, and it seemed intriguing. So I checked it out, and here are my thoughts. Now, just getting into the beginning parts of the story, you play as a 20-something-year-old and he gets sucked into his phone into the recent dating game that he's been playing. It's kind of like a lifestyle dating sim kind of game, and that's where the character comes from in the apartment that you see that's going to be playing throughout the majority of this video. And your primary, we'll say antagonist, is Mita or Mita. Not sure how to say it. Anyway, she kind of goes crazy, and that's where a lot of the horror aspects come from, but also the game sort of breaks. The dating game that you get sucked into becomes extremely distorted throughout. Now, it takes you outside of the regular elements of the story to be able to expand upon it and kind of go crazy with it. Where it's not just dating simulation, walking around, seeing scary thing, it breaks down the idea of being in a video game and what that kind of means. And as you probably already know, there are multiple different versions of the character Mita. They all have their unique quirks, where they all have a slight difference. Maybe some of them are pretty similar, one of them is not so similar, but they are all based upon the same character with just their own quirks. And the majority of this game is you meeting these characters and trying to escape this game or simulation that you're kind of stuck in. The gameplay itself is very much walking around, clicking on a thing, or watching these characters talk, and there's subtitles that come up. Now, the subtitles that come up are very well done. It's kind of weird because they do pop up very specifically where the character is, and if you move away from them or towards them, they will remain where they were and kind of fall down to the ground. And that was extremely unique. I liked kind of moving around in the environment and watching all the letters from my speech bubbles come up and then just fall down away from me. That was extremely cool. But getting into what I would actually consider to be more of quote-unquote gameplay is the minigames. So there are maybe a dozen little minigames throughout this that have their own unique gameplay behind them. One of them is going to be the Mario Kart-like section, and I don't want to show all of them to you because it's part of the charm of this is learning them, but they all have their own way of playing it, its own unique style and identity of minigame. Every single one of them was polished, it was cool, unique, I wasn't expecting it, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it helped break up that gameplay. Even though this game is overall roughly about 5 to 6 hours, I think if you kind of want to do little side things, maybe 7 or 8, I'm not truly sure, but I think I beat it in about 6. The minigames happening on a periodic basis allowed that to be broken up over a better period that wasn't just walking around, seeing scary thing, and keep walking. Instead, you're able to actually have some sort of gameplay element to it. And boy, do these developers know how to make a fucking minigame. They're so exciting just for that small moment. There's some of them that only last 30 to 60 seconds. Like you go in there, you do a couple small things, bam, minigame over, move on. And I don't know how or where they got the idea to keep that as the only type of gameplay for just a moment and then go right back to the walking simulation and scary things. It's such a two sides of the same coin type of situation. For progression and other things like that, well, there's none of that here. You really just play through the game. It's very story heavy. You're not going to be unlocking anything besides outfits or getting some small collectibles here and there, and that's the only thing that you should be looking out for. This game is about the story, seeing what the characters do, what journey it takes you on, and how much you can shit your pants. Because I did. There was one part in the preview where the character was just standing behind me, but I was so engrossed in the moment that I was not expecting it, and I jumped out of my fucking chair. So if that tells you anything, I don't get scared easily, but this game, it fucking scared me. Multiple times, my back hair, my arm hair, my fucking ass cheek hair stood up. And when it comes to the style, the environments, the world of everything, it's done in a way that's super consistent throughout the entire game. It's stylistic, it's beautiful, and it looks great. It's got this deep black outline behind every single item in the environment, and the characters have outlines to them as well. They're so highly detailed. The game has some shortcomings when it comes to the written portion, and by that I mean it wasn't done the best to maybe be ported to English, to where some of it's a little rough around the edges. I found myself having to reread things to make sure I understood it properly, just because there was something missing in that translation. But overall, 95% of it was fine. Clever jokes, subverting expectations, all done very well. The music and audio is definitely killer in this. It's going to keep you engrossed. It's going to keep that vibe throughout the entire runtime, and you're never going to get bored of it, I promise. You might even be listening to the soundtrack afterwards because it's pretty engrossing. I love the chill atmosphere that this game puts out there. It executes it very, very well. And for my final thoughts behind it, because I do want to keep this rather short, is that the game isn't very difficult. Some of the minigames can be slightly difficult if you're trying to do a specific thing, but only if you're not really paying attention or you really don't know what you're doing. But after a few failed attempts, you'll definitely get it. Now, this game is fully released. It is $15, and $15, extremely worth it. There are some games when it comes to price that I'm like, hey, maybe don't go for it unless you get it on a discount. Maybe it doesn't do anything unique, but this game is pretty wild. And just for that experience of like how insane it is, I would say it's worth it. Just like I say with many of these games, please go support your indie developers. This is a phenomenal game. It came out at the very end of last year, but I didn't play it until now, so I'll consider it for like top 10 games of this year. As of right now, it might be at the bottom of that list, only based upon the other games coming out this year. It probably will fall off, honestly. But as of right now, it is a game that I'm considering to keep up there in the top 10, and we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell in how I reflect on this game. But that's going to be it for me for this video. I hope this review allowed you to get a little bit of a better understanding and maybe see a little bit more of the game that you wouldn't see unless you played it outright. But either way, leave a comment, subscribe, like the video, all that stupid YouTube stuff, and I'll see you next time.